Good to know you're still with us. Now, Atiku Abubakar of the PDP has made known his interest to run again in the 2027 presidential elections. If this happens, it will be his 7th attempt at the presidency since 1993. While the PDP says he has the capacity, wisdom, knowledge, and energy to rule the nation, calling him the best president Nigeria ever had, the APC has called on Atiku to do away with such thoughts, saying he is not a force to reckon with and he is not a threat to the APC's flag bearer, President Bola Tinubu. Let's take a look at this. We're joined in the studio. We have Aare Oladeinde Ariyo, a government policies and public affairs analyst. And we're joined virtually from New Jersey by Curtis Adigba, lawyer and political consultant. Gentlemen, it's good to have you on Politics HQ. Good
evening. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
All right, Arasa, let me start with you. This is not a new conversation, really. I guess it's coming up because the spokesperson to the former vice president confirmed what has already been known, that Atiku plans to run again. But is this conversation too early? Or, I mean, they're starting now, as it were, to campaign.
Thank you very much. Going by the Constitution, everyone, including Atiku, is entitled to vie for whatever office they choose to vie for. And is eminently qualified to contest to be the president of Nigeria. But given the facts in public space as they are, were he to be my friend or maybe my uncle, I would have sat him down and explained to him why he should do something else with his time and resources as against contesting to be Nigeria's president. But that's as it may. He's not my friend in any way. I don't even know him beyond the public space. I welcome him. I mean, especially when the current government is less than a year in office and they still have more years to go. So I would have thought we should have been engaged with offering directions, advice, and counsels to the sitting government, whereby things can get better than they are, as against not seeing what I see as a high ambition. But as I said, the Constitution gives him all the latitude to do just that.
All right, Curtis, let's bring you in. First off, of course, I'd like to hear your thinking on this early confirmation of Atiku running again in 2027. And then I want to ask how this will impact the party dynamics. He is in PDP, and we know what happened before he became the candidate.
All right, thank you. I mean, first of all, like my colleague there said, the Nigerian Constitution has an entry point. It doesn't have an exit point in terms of age. Now, you have to be 18 and above to vote and 21 to be elected to certain offices in the country. But there's no age limit as to when you cannot contest election. If once you have become an adult and you can vote and be voted for rights, so you will say that Atiku has the right to run for the highest office in the land for the 7th time. Of course, he might be lucky the 7th attempt. Don't forget that the former president had his luck on the 4th attempt. I'm talking of former President Muhammadu Buhari, right? But then, when we look at the age, right now Atiku is 77, okay? That age is not uncommon within the African political ecosystem. And I will prove that to you quickly. Paul Biya is 90 years old, president of Cameroon. Nana Akufo of Ghana is 79. Museveni of Uganda is 79. Mbesego of Equatorial Guinea is 81. Alassane Ouattara of Cote d'Ivoire is 81. When you come down to, we should go to South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa is 71. In Nigeria, Tinubu is 71. And then when you look at Liberia, that just elected a 79-year-old man in place of a 57-year-old, Joseph Boakai. So you will find that Atiku at 71, 77 aspiring to be president of Nigeria is not a strange development in Africa. However, if you observed the Waziri Adamawa recently, you will find that he has lost some steps. And so I think that the stamina and the mental acuity that is required for the job of the president of Nigeria, a country with more young people than the old, come on, I think that Atiku should give it a second thought. But nothing stops him from running. But I think that at this moment, Atiku should be engaged in spotting for talents that can take over from his generation in our own generation, or perhaps the generation below ours.
All right, but pending him coming up to say he's changed his mind and he wants to encourage someone else, I'd still like you to speak on the second part of the question that I asked, the impact this announcement is likely to have. There are already speculations that this will deepen the divide within the PDP if he chooses to run. And I reference the controversies surrounding his emergence as the candidate of the PDP in the 2023 election.
Okay, so you want me to, okay, so I think there is something called permanent campaign. And that's what we have in our country already. Now, those who are saying that it's too early in the day for him to get off the block, I think are just being hypocritical. Because as we speak, even the current president is already putting in place mechanism for 2027. So Atiku is not too early when you live in a country that has a permanent campaign structure. That's one. The second issue is that, look, I don't think that Atiku's declaration of intention to run will divide his party any further than the party is divided today. Don't forget that even all those in the PDP who mounted serious campaign about power shift to the South, were just playing politics. Basically, they were not even serious about that. So if you believe that Atiku emerging as a candidate of the PDP from the North will further divide the political party, I think you are mistaken. What I think will happen is that now, as we move closer to 2027, you are going to find some restructuring within the ruling political party, as well as the major opposition party, because you are going to find candidates or aspirants who will lose out in the APC. And as a result of that, they look for a new political party to go into. And PDP, believe me, is going to be their number one consideration. So the strength of the PDP is going to be measured by the activities in the APC and how well the APC as a party conduct itself as we head towards 2027.
All right, Aare, let me come back to you and ask a submission that was made by the spokesperson for the NNPP presidential election campaign council for 2023. He said that all this conversation might be overtaken by events and there might be stronger contenders than Atiku when we come to 2027. So do you think that there is that possibility that events might come up that will render today's conversation irrelevant, really?
Yeah, well, thank you very much. Let me first of all explain, my position on one or two things. Okay. My brother was explaining away the issue of age and mental capability regarding managing Nigeria. Some of the examples he gave are the worst examples of presidents in Africa today. Paul Biya has terribly mismanaged Cameroon. But, we all know how these things play out. Therefore, beyond age, mental capacity is a strong factor. And of course, currency. We are no longer in the analog era. Not just digital era now, but AI has taken charge of so many things.
I think you're concurring with his submission because that was what he ended up saying.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, so for all I care, if I have my way, I would rather we look for a younger person. who has demonstrated capability, maybe in private business or civil service or multinational engagements or wherever. We shouldn't forget that. We cannot afford to be irrelevant in a competitive world where people are so dynamic and they are looking ahead. Then secondly, as I said, Nigeria has peculiar problems. For somebody who has been vice president for so long, I would have expected him to be at the forefront of providing what I call alternative government to the one in power. Alternative in one sense, by looking at specific challenges and problems and profiling likely solutions.
I mean,
Okay?
yeah, I mean, not to sound like a pessimist, but the truth is, if you're not in the party that is ruling, your suggestions sometimes don't take.
That's
why I use the word alternative. Okay, I'm not saying you should be working for them or working with them, but it should be. It will have been better engaged providing alternatives.
Be specific, please, because when you, this is not the first time I'm hearing, these suggestions that people who are in opposition or not in government should find a way to help the government and, improve on the lives of the citizens. But in what ways specifically would you expect that Atiku can, push the needle in governance?
Right now, the crisis of whether to increase the cost of petrol or not is out there. Okay, for a statesman of his experience, exposure, it won't make, it will earn him some feathers to his cap if he can come up and make a presentation, for instance, on what should be. It does not matter whether the government listens to him or not, but it will be out there and it will be counting even for him, okay, whenever there's a need, for him to be so recognized. But the fact again is this: we're talking of Nigeria. Obi left PDP out of frustration, and in a very short time, he galvanized labor and he became the third force. And you and I saw how well they performed during the election. Therefore, we cannot take away the possibility of another politician emerging through whatever means which we may not be able to define or decide now, and then changing the whole game plan. Not only that, we just had an 8 years of a northern presidency. It may not be there in the constitution, but we all know the issue of north-south dichotomy. Therefore, I don't think the Nigerian mercies will so soon want to abandon, the opportunities reserved now for a southern president and now go back to voting for a northern candidate. Imagine if he had won the last election, that would have given us possible 16 years of back-to-back northern presidency. This will not help our polity. Let's be very real and realistic. And that, for me, should have been a thinking behind whatever decision anybody may want to take. It is for you to come out and say, I'm contesting, fine. But are you sellable? Will the people accept what you are offering? Because there's no point just coming out every election, throwing around money, wasting time, and all of that, stressing yourself when you already know there are similar, impossible, stumbling blocks to overcome. And that's why he said, in his shoes, I would rather do something else with my time, life, and resources.
All right, let's come back to you, Curtis. A lot has been said. Do you have a response, or do you want me to ask you a different question?
I was going to point out that there is this myth about age and performance in governance or in government. But the reality in our country is that age has never been our problem. When you look at our past leaders, whether civil or military leaders, they assumed position as young people. Okay? Even in the current dispensation, you cannot point to a governor apart from Ariyo of Katsina State. Majority of them became governors in their early mid-40s and some 50s. So this whole talk about age, President Jonathan, how old was Jonathan when he became president? How old was Babangida when he became the president? This whole idea that only young people can turn around the affairs of the country is not supported by any evidence in our country. And that is important. Then the other thing we talk about is that people are quick out of the block to try and tally, presidential terms. They not just finished 8 years. If they not had it again, but if you look at the political dispensation from 1999 up to now, the counter argument will be that the South alone has had 14 years. And if you add the Tinubu terms of 4, you'll be talking about 18 as against that of the North that is just 11 years. So I don't think this is an argument we should be making. I think that as someone who believes in more progress than just this characterization of whether you are a Northerner or a Southerner, because we've had president from the South, we've had president from the North, and that has not significantly improved our living conditions. So we should now begin to look at talents rather than this Northern and Southern dichotomy. And it's also not good to just look at the entire country through the prisms of the North and South. Okay? There are groups of Nigerians who live in different parts of the country, who can generate enough talent and quality to govern this country, other than just put it North and South alone.
But don't you think that conversation is now a bit null? We talk about rotational presidency. There doesn't seem to be coherence.
It's not a constitutional issue. It's a political party affair. There is no provision in our constitution that recognizes rotational presidency.
Yes. We all know that it is not a constitutional thing, that it's an agreement that was had. But if we cannot come to a consensus on issues like that, and then how do you expect? And we still have... sorry, I'm trying to get my thoughts together as I talk, actually. The background to that rotational presidency, if I am correct, is to address some of the marginalization complaints from different parts of the country. If that is pushed aside, do you think Nigeria is ready to embrace, what's the word you use now? Is it competence and youth as against these issues, ethnicity, religion, and all of it? Are we mature enough as a country for that conversation?
So let me drill down on my point. First and foremost, only the PDP has a position on rotational presidency. I hope you understand that. And even at that, the promise and the practice are worlds apart. Now, having said that, don't forget that even when we talk about rotational presidency between the North and the South, the last 2 attempts in the North has been Fulanis. I hope you know that. And the shift to the South has also been about the Yorubas. And you and I understand that not only the Yorubas are in the South, and not only the Fulanis are in the North. So when you talk about fairness in the context of South and North alone, and then when you come to the South, it stays in one place, you go to the North, it stays in another place. How fair is that system? And this is why I've always advocated that our politics should become an integrated community politics instead of the gated estate policy, the democracy that we have right now. Okay? So if you open this structure, because you see, people are talking about fairness. There is no community. If you are going to drill down and atomize what fairness is, there is no community in Nigeria. You cannot find talented people who can govern.
Cousins, I'm sorry to interject, but I need to bring Aare in back in, and let's look at another the question that you a submission that you made about Atiku acting better in trying to help. I'm trying to paraphrase now, playing a better role, leadership role, even though he is not in a governance. So I want to ask, maybe you could expand. Did you mean playing opposition in a way that is impactful for the citizens as maybe a campaign strategy that might give him an edge and remove the slogan of old stock?
Thank you very much. You know, you just took the word from my mouth. If he embarks on that, it's very simple. Gather up a think tank and then identify the specific challenges of the country. Maybe on a quarterly basis, you address the conference, analyze, explain, offer solutions on a regular basis. Let me tell you, by the time it will be campaign period, it will be seen to have marketed himself ahead of the campaign period. Why? Everything he will have done will have been pushed out to the public space. And Nigerians are not the dummies. They will have been looking at these things, building them up as a strategy for him. And for me, it will put him in even a better stead, especially if the government in power failed to look at what he was offering and didn't get it right. You understand me? So that's, for me, what I think. You see, the politics of Nigeria as it is lacks ideology. And that's why I said it, that we still are not practicing democracy. Everything about democracy in Nigeria starts and ends at electioneering. And once that is over, power sharing and all of that. And that's why we are where we are today. Not only that, there are no clearly defined ideologies. And of course, the two planks of democracy anywhere in the world are missing here, and they are accountability and transparency. We've not had all of that. Perhaps if we can target those among others and throw them up, create debate in public space at all of these things, there will have been a gradual, systemic, and progressive build-up to his campaign. So by the time the campaign will come, he will have very little questions to answer as against what we've had in the time past, and making the whole thing look like it's either us or not us. And let me tell you, I have lived my life in this country, except for the few ones that I was outside for other engagements. I can tell you categorically that rotational presidency cannot be ignored, whether we like it or not. It is just there. We can't throw it away. It's our reality.
Yeah, I'm told we have 3 minutes, and I want to divide it 1-1 between the two of you quickly. I'll start with you, Curtis. I think there is actually a forum. We've been talking about Atiku's 2027 ambition, but we also know that President Tinubu has that. We know that there is a forum of 2023 APC presidential aspirants who are saying that they are going to galvanize support to ensure that President Tinubu retains his seat in 2027. I just want your quick thoughts in 1 minute, as quickly as you can, please, about the idea behind this setup of previous aspirants who wanted to do something, coming behind Atiku, who is barely 1 year in office, and there are no antecedents to say he has done so well. Tinubu, I beg your pardon, that he has done so well that now we want to support him. I just wanted you to talk about the rationale behind that as quickly as you can.
So you see the hypocrisy of the ruling party when they say it's too early for Atiku to start talking about his own ambition. And that is because we are in a permanent campaign mode. And people are looking at their interests. They are not looking at what happens to the country. Look, it was the Harvard economist, Moyo from Gambia, who said, the problem of democracy in Africa is short-termism. Short-termism in the sense that politicians are not looking at delivering on the mandate that they have. They are looking on winning the next election, right? And that's exactly what you see. Like you rightly observed, he has not performed. There is no antecedent as to how he has acted as a president, but there's a group of people who already believe that he has to be the candidate in 2027 and he has to win it. That is done to the kind of politics that we have. But having said that, my friend in the studio said, we do not practice politics of ideology. But what he's advocating that Atiku should do, which in any case, Atiku has been doing. I don't think there's any presidential candidate in the history of Nigeria who has talked more about restructuring with specific details than Atiku. Of course, I'm not a spokesperson. I don't think there's any other person who has come out with clear and definite ideas about how the economy of the country should be managed more than Atiku.
I think when we talk about ideology, sorry to interrupt, correct me if I'm wrong, when we talk about ideology, we're not just talking about what specific plans the party, what is the guiding principle behind each party formation?
Exactly.
Why is that party in existence?
I understand that. Look, I don't believe that we do not practice. Go and look at the manifesto and the constitution of our two major political parties.
All right, we really don't have time.
Clear ideas, but whether they're carrying out those ideas is a different thing altogether.
All right, this conversation would have been lovely if we could extend it. Quickly, in 40 seconds.
To 1979. Chief Awolowo had a 4-point agenda, and they were very specific. And in states where his party won the election, they were rigorously pursued. But this present democratic experiment, they just threw out manifestos, and either PDP or APC, none of them has, to the letter and the spirit of their manifestos delivered value into our lives. And that's why today people look at themselves and they say, am I better now than I was before 1999? The answer is still no on all fronts. I'm not a politician. I'm a Nigerian. I don't have passport to any other country anywhere. I don't intend to have it. I'm much more interested on living in Nigeria that my children will be proud of. And when I will die, I'll go to my grave a happy and fulfilled person. I'm
sure we'll have to pick this conversation some other time. Thank you both very warmly for your time and the insights you provided.
Thank you for having me.